At number 2 is Dakorien Moore, the wide receiver out of Oregon. So we saw last year, right? True freshman receivers dominated last year. Jeremiah Smith was the best true freshman receiver we've ever seen in college football. Ryan Williams is now entering his sophomore year as my number 2 receiver in the country. Those two are actually on the cover of EA College Football 26 because of how good they were as true freshmen. And then a bunch of other guys like Cam Coleman and Bryant Wesco Jr. were also great as true freshmen. So Dakorien Moore, as the number 1 receiver out of high school, is also expected to take on that kind of role. And also, Dalton, he's a guy that would need to take on that role right now because Evan Stewart is most likely going to miss all of next year with a torn patellar tendon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Dakorien Moore is as important to Oregon's success this year as anybody because I think wide receiver might be the position that we have the most questions about. But it helps to have the number 1 guy in the country coming in as a true freshman. And to me, Max, it only took me maybe a handful of clips before I looked at Dakorien Moore and went, oh, that's Stephon Diggs. Okay, I think that's the type of player you're looking at. 5'11", 6 foot, about 190 pounds, lightning after the catch. He can stop and start on a dime with the ball in his hands. He's tough. He's competitive. He wins more contested situations than he really should than most guys do at that size. So I just think a lot of that, the package feels like Stephon Diggs to me. Remember, Diggs was a big-time recruit when he went to Maryland back in the day and then fell to the 5th round of the NFL draft because the production never quite hit at the level of a number 1 receiver. It did in the NFL, but not quite at Maryland. But I think, look, Moore has got a serious opportunity here to step in as Oregon's top guy very, very early. And the question is going to be around him, the development of Dante Moore, right?
Yep.
And maybe we're going to get into that a lot during the season. We've got Haynes and Haynes down at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have more and more at Oregon. But look, he's got, I think it's just like Jeremiah Smith last year. He's got an opportunity.
Yeah.
And when you have an opportunity, no matter how old you are, if you're that talented, you take advantage of it. Dakorien Moore is going to be a huge factor in whether or not Oregon can get back to the playoff again.
I love the Diggs comp. I mean, he's got elite speed. He ran a 10.4 second 100-meter dash in high school. That translates over really nicely to the gridiron. Really good agility, too, which makes him a really good separator and dynamic after the catch. You mentioned he's 5'11", 186 pounds, but he plays way, way bigger than that. He makes some outrageous catches on tape and really strong hands, and he's a great leaper, too. Got a really high vertical jump, which makes him win those contested situations. He played at a really high classification of high school football at Duncanville High School in Texas. In fact, he was the number 5 overall player in the class of 2025. His quarterback, Keelan Russell, we'll talk about later, was the number 2 overall player. So you had an elite connection between Keelan Russell and Dakorien Moore at Duncanville High School. But Dakorien Moore dominated. Even at that high level of high school football, he had 4,113 receiving yards in his 4 years there with 40 touchdowns across his 4 years there, too, at a very, very high level of high school football. Again, I think Dakorien Moore, will it be a Jeremiah Smith level of impact? I doubt it, because Jeremiah Smith, like I said, is the greatest true freshman receiver we've ever seen. But I could see this being like a Ryan Williams, if not a little bit more than that this year.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a matter of how much can they move him around. And again, I think more so than Dakorien Moore's talent, it's going to be about Dante Moore and what he can bring to this offense. Because, what Jeremiah Smith had last year, the advantage he had was Will Howard being a veteran quarterback, right? He'd already been a multi-year starter at Kansas State. This year, yes, Dante had experience at UCLA, but he's really kind of he was getting seasoned last year on the bench behind Dylan Gabriel, and now you're really getting his first serious opportunity with a team committing to him as their starter. So I think Dante Moore, Dakorien Moore, it's going to be a pairing we're going to be watching all season, seeing how the progress goes there, but Dakorien's got a boatload of talent.
I know Oregon fans came at us a little earlier, too, when we said Dakorien Moore would be the number 1 guy for them, and we think that he will be. But they also have some other guys, too, like Kenyon Sadiq, obviously great tight end there too. And then hopefully you have guys like Kyler Casper and Gary Bryan and former 5-star recruit Jurrion Dickey as a redshirt sophomore contribute too. But I really think Dakorien Moore has a great chance next year to be the number 1 weapon for Oregon as a true freshman.
Especially that after the catch ability and the screen game as quickly so often as Oregon gets the football outside, right? We saw it a lot with Tej Johnson, and he was among the national leaders the last couple of years in yards after catch, but I think Moore is even more dynamic than Tej Johnson, obviously bigger than he is, and I think that's the ability you really tap into early on. Just get him the football. I think it's that simple with Dakorien. Get him the football, let him work his magic after the catch, and then the rest of the details will iron out over the next couple of years.
He had a really good spring game, too. Some really nice catches out there, too. So Dakorien Moore, the number 2 freshman to know because he could be the number 1 receiver for Oregon as a true freshman. For a team that has legitimate national title aspirations, Dakorien Moore could be the number 1 receiver for that team as the number 1 receiver coming out of high school too. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.